Previously on the career coaching experience, we reviewed Daniella's Myers-Briggs results and discovered that she is an ENFJ, otherwise known as the teacher. We also reviewed Daniella's results from the career test, aptitude test, and it tracked her personality very closely, revealing potential careers in communications, education, and the medical and nursing field, as well as specific job functions, which include teaching, public relations, marketing, training, mentoring, and even coaching. And finally, we left off at 3 things for Daniella to do this week, and we're going to find out how she did. So let's get right to it. First of all, happy birthday, Daniella.
Thank you. I can't believe I'm 30. It's crazy.
Are you serious? You're 30 years old?
I am. Is that crazy?
How does it feel?
It feels good. You know, I mean, my friends are like, welcome to the 3-0 club.
Wow,
And then one of my friends, she's like, one of my best friends, Erica, she's like, it's great to be out of your 20s, but it is a challenge. I'm like, oh, that's great.
You know,
nothing changes.
I looked at my 20s as a very challenging part of my life because in a lot of ways I struggled, you know, trying to figure out who I was and what I was doing. And I made a lot of mistakes. And I can honestly tell you, and I think a lot of our audience will also admit that it definitely gets better. I mean, 30s are better than your 20s, 40s are better than your 30s, 50s are better than your 40s because you start to have money and you have free time. And yeah, it only gets better, Danielle.
Okay, good. Because that's the situation. That's where I am right now, right? I want to find myself even with the assessments. I'm like, do I even really know who I am with some of the questions? So
we're going to get to that. We have an assessment that's actually called Do I Know Me? And you did very well on it. We have another assessment on the entrepreneurship that you completed. We're going to get into that. But first of all, I want to see how you did on last week's homework assignment. Namely, have you thought of any specific positions that would go along with the results of last week, which again were the teaching, mentoring, coaching, healthcare, you know, medical, communications, education. So I'm sure we're all curious to figure out, like, if you came up with a few potential careers or job functions.
absolutely. So I definitely think that life coaching is one of them. But when I combine the teaching and my personality being with motivating communication skills, and how I work with my employees, which is another homework assignment, I feel like I'm an in-house therapist, right? I mean, when you combine everything, I just feel like, should I do therapy? Right? But that's what I was thinking. Who knows if I will be a therapist? I have my own therapist. So sometimes I'm like, should I even have a therapist if I have a therapist and a life coach? So, but yeah, no, I think that I definitely would love to do something where I'm working with people. I feel like sometimes I have this empowerment within myself that I can motivate others to really kind of shine through their weaknesses and make them strengths. And that's what I do for my team. And I think that's why I have such a great team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it, so how does it make you feel? How did it make you feel when you sort of came to this epiphany that, you know, I feel like a therapist, and maybe that's one of the areas I should think about?
Yeah, because I was thinking about it, it's like, whether it's corporate or whatever type of office that you're working in, like I mentioned before, everyone is a human being. They say, don't bring what's at home coming into the office, but when someone walks in and it's like, oh, she's in a bad mood, right? So sometimes I think, should there be an in-house therapist or a life coach in every single company or every single office? I think that's very important.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One of the other things that we talked about that you're going to do for this week was spend time with maybe one individual, either inside the company or outside the company, and try some of these mentoring or coaching or teaching skills to see how that made you feel.
Yeah. So I actually have at work and also my personal life. She might kill me for saying this, but my mom who's in her 50s. She's such a hard worker, and recently she left her current position. She was there for 11 years. And she's kind of coming to me for motivation and to structure her life. And it's great because I feel that it's a challenge within myself, right? She's my mom, I'm younger than her, and I'm over here like motivating her, structuring her life. We're going through her goals for her future. And so that was one way. And it feels really good because whether I'm younger or whatever, I'm motivating her to want to do more. And I see a different mom in a sense. She's like happier, she's more free spirited. So that was really, it felt like an accomplishment, even if it was just for the week. And then, and she's even like updating me, right? Like, hi, great day. This is what I did. This is what I accomplished. Still working on this. So it felt really good to use her as a guinea pig, right?
Well, what you'll start to find is it sounds like a lot of what you were doing was giving her advice, right? Advising is sort of like consulting. It's what, someone would do on the corporate side, whereas coaching is more enabling and empowering. What do you think? Were you more or less advising more, or do you think you were coaching and letting her come up with her own solutions? Or
So, for example, let's just say something simple, right? Like working out. She's totally let go of that, and she was a tennis player. And I'm thinking, what is something that you wake up every day and you're like, oh man, I really need to do this, even if it's nothing about work. And
Yeah.
she's like, well, I haven't played tennis. I totally let go of myself. And I'm thinking, well, I can advise you. I can advise anyone. You should really go to the gym. If you don't go, I can't go work out and you're going to get a six pack. So it's more of an empowering and a motivating, right?
Good.
So I actually went with her to the gym and I said, and she's like, oh, we're only doing like 25, 30 minutes. I go, yes, because the biggest accomplishment today was that you actually put on your sneakers and you made it there. And that's what you should be proud of. And so she texted me the next day, hey, are you going to the gym today?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So that within itself, something so small like that is a big accomplishment for myself, but also for her.
Yeah. And then like the next step would be for her to keep track of how many times she goes.
Right. And
after
so
a week, a month, 6 months. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we hit a goal for her is 3 times a week. That doesn't include her walk so it feels good. It feels good to do it with a family member and also at work, right? One thing about me is I observe every single employee because I believe that everyone has their weaknesses and their strengths, but you have to have a balance within and you have to respect everyone for the weaknesses and strengths. And so one of my employees, she actually is leaving the company and I had to sit down with her and kind of coach her, which is funny because here I am. I don't know what I want to do. And I'm coaching her through her interview process, what her weaknesses are, where her strengths are. And she did get the job, which I'm so happy. And I'm really happy for her. And I guess, I don't know, I have this motivation that I think I can kind of push upon people because I'm real and I don't try to make it something that it's not.
Well, good. You should try, as what we'll do in the coming weeks is it would be good to see, how you feel doing some informal coaching with your mom and going back to your example. So an easy way to explain this would be advising would be, giving your mom advice. Hey, I think it would be a good idea if you went and worked out 3 times a week. Coaching would be asking your mom, hey, mom, what would really make you feel good in the mornings? I mean, what is something that you could do that would make you feel good? And then her saying, oh, I'd like to get back and play tennis again. So that's the difference between advising somebody what to do, and then coaching is empowering them to come up with their own solution. Because once she comes up with the solution about, tennis will be really great for me to play, she's going to do that. But if someone advises her to do it or tells her to do it, she may do it once or twice. And then the other thing that you did really well is she's keeping track of it. It's like you and I, Danielle, after every show, it's like, okay, Danielle, what do you think you should be doing the following week, and you come up with 3 things. And then on the show, I'm asking you right now, how did those 3 things go? So I'm holding you accountable.
Right. And
Very, very important.
that's important, right? Taking extreme ownership. Like,
Exactly. So now your mom has extreme ownership because it's hers. She bought into it,
exactly,
which
exactly.
is the great thing about coaching. Yeah, you may have a great career in coaching. I mean, you have all the God-given talents, and but we're getting ahead of ourselves because I want that to be something that Daniella decides. So,
Yeah. It's been challenging too, to be very honest. I've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
struggling a bit.
yeah, it's good. It's a little scary because you don't know what the answer is going to be sometimes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So let's move on a little bit. So you also took, as a bonus, you took a couple of assessment tests,
I love these.
which you like these assessment
I
tests.
do, I really do, because it really helps me. It challenges like some of the simple sentences that I have to say, whether they're less true or more true. Sometimes I catch myself in the middle, and it's because I guess it kind of leads into do you really know who you are? And I'm like, oh, I'll put 3 because I really am not sure.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. So I put the links for these tests for everyone, because if you take it, like the Myers-Briggs link, I put that in the show notes. Okay. When people look at the YouTube, there's comments and also the show notes. So I put the links for the Myers-Briggs. I put an invite on there so that anybody that wanted to take the career test, I've got the link. I think I think it's like $10 or something. So
they definitely should take it. Everyone should take it.
I noticed that a bunch of people actually did take the test. So there's
Yeah.
people out there watching, and there's people that have actually taken the test. So
Well, I'm interested. I
Yeah.
look forward to their feedback and see where they are too.
yeah, and then so for the 2 tests that we're gonna go over today, one is Born to be an Entrepreneur, and the second one is Do I Know Me? I'm going to provide those links as well. So anybody that wants to take those same assessment tests, you just have to email me, and then I will send you out the test. It's free. So
Yeah.
I highly highly recommend, if anybody's interested, they can do the same thing for free. So let's go over this Born to be an Entrepreneur test is an interesting test because it not only gauges what you want to do and who you want to be, but more importantly, there becomes a decision point where you have to either be an entrepreneur, in other words, you have to be an owner, right? We talked about this, owners and temps,
Yes.
right? So you're either an owner or you're a temp. If you work for somebody else, you're a temp. You're always 2 weeks from out the door, okay? Not many people realize that, but that is the ugly truth in the job market. So you can either be an entrepreneur where you're an owner, or you can work for someone else, a corporation, partnership, whatever. And that's a temp. So I had you take this test, and your score indicates a high likelihood that you have some qualities of a born entrepreneur. You certainly possess many of the qualities that entrepreneurs require. I'm just reading off of this now.
Yeah.
You may be more interested in a small business ownership and risk-taking when you were younger, and are currently seeking more stability. So what that means is people tend to be entrepreneurs when they can afford to be one. In other words, a lot of people are seeking stability, are seeking longevity. Entrepreneurship is mutually exclusive. In other words, you can't have both. To be an entrepreneur, you have to be able to take on financial risk. So for a lot of people, that's a bridge too far. We could talk about ways that you could potentially mitigate that. Okay. You are likely to be someone who is very creative and independent, and who has some great business ideas. You've got some great ideas, one of which we'll probably end up talking about because we're talking about that before we went on the air. And if you choose to pursue entrepreneurship, you need to get the appropriate support and assistance and dedicate yourself. You need to extremely own it.
Yes.
That's extreme ownership again. So what did you think of the test? And what do you think about entrepreneurship? Because you scored very high. You scored a 91 out of 100.
I did. I knew I wasn't going to be a born entrepreneur for sure. But I know that I do have the qualities of an entrepreneur. And I asked Nick, I said, do you think I'm a risk taker? And he's like, well, in terms of what? I said, do you think I can be an entrepreneur? And he's like, well, would you be able to give up everything and just really fully risk it all? And I'm like, well, if I know that I'm financially okay and stable. And he goes, well, then that's not really being a risk taker, right? Because if you need that stability, you can have all of these ideas, but you're not willing to just drop everything and go for it. Because sometimes an entrepreneur will make zero for a while, and then that's risking it. So I was thinking about that, and I'm like, oh man, do I need more stability? Does that mean that I won't be able to have my own business? But as I mentioned before, when it did say that if you choose to pursue entrepreneurship, you need the appropriate support and assistance, I was thinking that is something, I guess that would be the cushion that I would need to succeed. And I don't know if that falls into being an entrepreneur, or how do you go, around that?
Yes, these are all very good points, actually. So there are ways that you can mitigate your risk. You can do it through partnerships, collaborative relationships with other people to share the risk, spread the risk around. You can have a full-time job and develop a side hustle, as they call it. So you can not go all in, you could put your foot in the water. I just give you an example. You're talking about coaching. Okay. So I have a recruiting business.
All right, that's my dog. He's going to bark soon.
Are we going to meet the dog today?
I should get him. Yeah, maybe you will. Teddy, do you want to come say hi? You want to come say hi? No, he's laying down.
He's a little camera shy. Huh? No, so entrepreneurship, you can there's ways that you can mitigate your risk. One of which is you can have a full-time job. In the case of Rob Houghton, I have an executive search business that has a lot of people. I've got employees, I've got clients. It's a business that never stops. But I really enjoy coaching. So coaching is actually a separate profit center. In other words, money I make from coaching, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 an hour, is in a separate company. Okay, because it's a separate business.
Right.
So although my recruiting business is my business, so I'm like a double entrepreneur. Okay. Let's pretend that I was working as a recruiter for someone else who owned Management Recruiters of Fairfax. Okay. I'm doing coaching. So I'm doing both at the same time. It's a side hustle. And then if the coaching business becomes, I get more clients, I really enjoy this, I'm making a lot of money, then, I could get to a point in the future where I could say, hey, you know what? I'd rather do coaching than do recruiting. The likelihood of that is very slim because I have so many clients now. I'm too late in life really to trash this career and start another one. But somebody like you just turned 30, right?
Right.
You could have a job and then do coaching on the side as an example, and then let that business develop. It's going to be a lot of hours, but being an entrepreneur, you got to be willing to work 50, 60 hours a week, probably.
And
so it's just one way to try something. You don't have to go all in, like Nick said. You could tiptoe in. It's not the preferred way to do it. The best way is just jump in and be motivated by fear of failure. But there are other ways that you can mitigate it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I'm kind of in limbo too, because I sometimes think to myself, I don't know if this is so true, but I feel like I'm very black or white. And it's either I'm all in or I'm nothing. There's no middle ground there, right? So if I really see that I have a goal. I want, like, my idea that I was sharing with you before. I'm thinking, man, if I can have a side, my job as a way of keeping the income coming in, right? That stability, but would I really be able to do two at the same time? Because would I be invested in more? That's where,
Yeah, no, that brings up a good point too. Let me throw something at you. What about
Yeah.
this? What if you did exactly the same thing you're doing now at your company, same role, only you went to
So my-
management and said,
oh.
hey, instead of me being an employee, I'd like to be a 1099 contractor. You're going to hire Daniella Rinaldo Inc. There you go. You're an entrepreneur now. Okay. You own your own consulting company. You own your own coaching company. You could carve out a role in your existing company that maybe will actually cost them less money because they don't have to pay all the admin stuff, all the insurance and all that stuff. But at least you have stability. And then maybe, if you're very efficient, you work for them 25 to 30 hours a week. And guess what? You get another client.
Right.
But then you get another client. And now you got 3 or 4 clients. And then guess what? You train someone else to do the same thing that you're doing. So now you have an employee.
Yeah.
That's another way to ease into it, is you go to your boss and say, hey, I would like to be your X, whatever it is. It's either you could be the training specialist, you could be a coach, you could be an executive coach, maybe helping all their key employees, you could be a teacher, a mentor, you could be a marketing person, all the things that we talked about last week.
And
Marketing
that's what I am
specialist,
now. I'm
PR.
everything in one.
Yeah, so we just got to figure out as we progress here, what that thing is. We
Right.
talked about the one thing, right? You got to figure out what the one thing is. And the one thing is there's only one person who knows what the one thing is, right?
Wait,
Who's
wait,
that?
Myself.
It's you. And that's why we're going through all these assessment tests. So we're on the journey of self-discovery. That's what we're supposed to be
know.
doing, right?
I know, I'm like patient and I'm excited to go through the process and the journey, but I'm also like, where am I going to be? It's that time where I'm like,
Here's some quotes, and I
yeah,
want you to respond to each one of these, okay? This
Okay.
is right out of the assessment.
okay,
For the Born Up Be Entrepreneur, that again, our audience can get access by emailing me. So here's a couple of things. Question number 22. I would be very happy to run my own business and turn some of my small business dreams into reality. You scored a 5 on that, so you feel very strongly about that, right?
yeah,
I
Is that-
frequently talked with friends about business we could start together since I have so many ideas. You scored a 4 on that.
so that's funny. The reason why I put 4 in that, because when I was even in high school, right, even in college, I always thought of different ideas that we could start together. And so we may not have taken action upon those ideas, but I have in this little tiny book, not tiny book, but here, I have a whole bunch of written business plans of, and sometimes I always look back and I'm thinking, man, what are the challenges? Can I really make this happen? And there's like 2 or 3 of them in there. And so, yeah, I mean, I have discussed with my friends and they've thought that they were great ideas. And
Have you ever tried to launch any of those ideas?
I have business plans. And I think that's what scared me was I'm a risk taker in the sense of I'm not afraid to fail, right?
Mhm.
But a risk taker, I guess, in the sense of getting an investor or not knowing where to start. That's why I have not taken action into making it something. Or no, I don't know how to. I really don't know how to. And I feel like you have to sell your idea. And at that point, it's like, man, like I have to prove that this is like a really good idea, but I know it's a good idea, but who will have faith in me? Or that's where the challenge comes.
Have you ever pitched any of these ideas to anybody?
Yes, I have.
What happened there?
One of them, he was a very successful gentleman. He loved the idea, but then he kind of tried to make it his own. And I'm like, it's not that it just won't work out that way. I mean, that's not even my idea anymore.
Yeah, can you give us an example of like one of these business plans or one of these ideas? And we could kind of toss it around a little bit.
Yeah, so one of these ideas, it kind of had to split a check when you go out. The name is super cool. I won't say it. But you have some people there's so many apps that help with like splitting checks and everything. But this idea is just really, really good. It's fun. The way you do it makes sense. It's easy. Everyone now, they're always splitting checks, or someone doesn't want to pay for the same appetizer that everyone pitched in on because someone always wants a cheaper bill. So it has to do with that. And it's hard to explain here. And I'm sure people that are hearing are like, okay, everyone has thought of something like that. And I wish I could tell you all exactly.
I never
step by
heard of this
step.
before. The problem I have is I don't drink. Okay. So when the wife and I go out and to a nice restaurant, we don't drink. Okay. But the other couple or the other two couples or whatever, one bottle of wine after another, cocktails at the bar. I mean, we get this bill that's like, $500 or something. And in my head, I'm thinking, the wife and I spent like $60, and of course, hey, we're splitting the bill. And I'm always thinking to myself, I don't want to be a heel or a CF, what that stands for. Like
You're so funny.
talk about the bill. So I just hand my credit card over and I'm paying like $250 for $60 worth of food. It doesn't bother me that much, but I've always thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to do this,
Yes. And so what this app does, it avoids the awkwardness.
Yes, it's very awkward. Yeah.
It's so awkward. And like, even when if I have, let's say I have a birthday brunch and everyone's like, oh, I didn't bring cash. So does someone want to put like $1,000 on their card? Is that okay with you? And everyone's like, okay, fine. But will you Venmo me? Will you do this? And it sometimes take 2 to 3 days to get that money. And sometimes those $1,000 may be nothing for someone, but for that person, it's like,
I know.
oh
Or
my
how about
God,
this
I
though?
paid my rent. So it avoids the awkwardness, which is why I love the app.
Yeah. And there's always the guy that goes out there that has his own business, and the bill's $1,000 and then he'll collect money from everybody, right? So let's say there's 4 people, his share is $250. So he collects $750 from everybody. He puts his credit card out, pays the $1,000, right? He's writing that off on his taxes. So the guy basically eats for free.
Oh yeah.
I know a guy that does that all the time. It drives me insane. This guy just collects money from people and then he pays the bill, and he always makes sure, because you always see him, he keeps the receipt, puts it in his pocket.
I know.
That guy is writing that off.
That's so funny. I know someone exactly.
Yeah. No, so the apps, so you actually presented it to somebody but I mean, how did it make you feel when you came up with this idea? I mean, how did that make you feel?
It made me feel really good. I mean, I didn't ever thought about it as like, oh my God, I'm an entrepreneur now, right? But I just thought of it as, wow, it's accessible, it's easy to present, it's a fun way to do things, and it just made me feel that I was just motivated, right? And that my mind isn't dull, that I'm always thinking of something, right?
That's the big thing about being an entrepreneur, is you're always thinking, you're always moving ahead. You're motivated. I know when I started up my recruiting business in 2003, I literally started in an office with a phone and a fax machine and a couple of desks and a chair. And I remember just praying to God the phone was going to start ringing so I could get some recruiting business, because I had like 9 months of savings that I put into that business. And if I didn't start breaking even at 9 months, I was probably going to be filing for bankruptcy,
Yeah.
So it's a scary journey.
Yeah. I mean, that's a true entrepreneur. So.
Another one that you had on here was, I enjoy being extroverted and building relationships with many people who are potential business partners or alliances. That's question number 10. That's really important, because you've got extraordinary communication skills. You're extroverted, and you're like a magnet. You're authentic, and people are drawn to you. And what this tells me is that you would have very little problem accessing and communicating with potential business partners, investors, alliances. How do you feel about that?
I always want to be on, I always like to speak with, I guess, my surroundings as to who have like similar goals and who are willing to see different ideas, and as a team try to build off of them, even if basically they're building relationships with people who have, yes. So anyone who has a goal to do more, anyone who's always thinking of ideas, but they're not selfish in the sense of, well, that's her idea, I don't feel like branching off of her idea because then that's her success. I kind of like to keep that circle small. And also it's scary, right? You never know who will take your idea and go running with it.
But I mean, how do you feel about approaching somebody that you don't know, and like as a potential business partner or an investor? How does that make you feel when you have to interact with somebody that you don't know?
Scary. I get scared sometimes, not because I'm intimidated in that way, but I start thinking to myself, not second guessing my idea, but I guess it's like, oh my gosh, I have the business plan, I know how to pitch, I know how to communicate very well, but how will they believe in me? Will they see that this is a true investment? Do they see that there's potential? And so I'm not afraid to pitch it, but of course, if I feel that I'm starting to like ramble on and I'm like, no, it's a really good idea, I can't believe you don't see it, I guess I get intimidated. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's normal.
Because I've seen you when you and I first met, when I saw you in a crowd, I was with Craig.
Yeah.
Craig Picken, and we actually noticed how you were able to mingle and go from group to group to group to group. And we said, I didn't even know you, Danielle. And we were like, this woman is an incredible networker. I mean, she's talking to like everybody in this place. And I'm thinking to myself, you would have little problem accessing business networks and groups of investors, potential partners, alliances. You would just have to know how to do it. But I guess my question is, inside of you, how comfortable are you in talking to strangers who?
Oh, 150%.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess that's my question. You could talk to people that are perfect strangers, right?
Yes, yeah. To answer that question simply, yes. I'm very, very comfortable speaking with a lot of people. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the porter. I don't care if you're a multi-bajillionaire. I will speak to you the same way.
How would you feel on a program like The Shark Tank? Woo! With like Mark Cuban and all those guys? I mean, just hypothetically, how would you
like
feel
to be
about
sitting next to Mark Cuban?
Huh?
And I would like to be sitting next to Mark Cuban and investing in a potential idea.
There you go.
To be in front of them, I would have to really prepare.
Yeah, I think you'd be great. So that's, I mean, you marked a 4 on this, which is a high score. So you obviously enjoy doing that sort of thing. So these are all, all these areas that you scored very, very high in, like at the top, either a 4 or 5, and these are scored 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. All these are critical success factors in being a successful entrepreneur. I mean, another one is, people have frequently told me things like, quote, "That is such a great business idea. You should really do that!" Exclamation point, close quote. Have people told you that in the past?
Yes, they have. But now it's action, right? I have to build off of that.
So what's really stopping you? I mean, what has really stopped you in the past?
I think finances. And also something like that app with the splitting the check and everything. That one person who was really looking to the investment, they started thinking, okay, well, we may need a software. Now that adds a lot more into it. But I had restaurants that were willing to already take on the app, which was amazing. And so what really, I guess that's what it was. And it was just not knowing where I needed a hand. I needed that assistance, I guess, and that support, because the energy is there, right? I feed off of energy. That's why I love being, being surrounded by business owners, entrepreneurs, because you feed off of ideas and then you keep on going, and it's that energy, that positivity.
Right.
But
So
yeah.
aside from money, okay, let's put financial risk, let's put money, investment dollars, funding, all that stuff. Let's put that aside. Okay. Let's pretend that that's not an issue.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. So with that off the table, would you feel more comfortable working as an entrepreneur, building and growing something that's your own?
Yeah.
Or would you feel more comfortable working for someone else as an employee?
No, I would feel very comfortable working on my own.
Right. Do you feel like you've got the motivation and the ability to work independently to really build and grow something on your own?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like to have that independence. I have a vision, and it's not that once I see a vision and once I structure myself, it's like my way or the highway. But with that being said, I like to build a team. So I think that I would feel very comfortable working on my own, but I would have to have a vision and see the bigger picture first.
Do you have that vision yet? Or
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
All right.
But
But we can talk about that next show.
Yeah,
What your
yeah.
vision is, because all you're really lacking now, I mean, I feel like you've reached, well, do you think that as of this moment in time, you have reached a decision point, aside from money, that you would definitely be happier using your skills to develop, build and grow something on your own, or continuing to work for someone else?
No, I'm ready to take that step.
Right.
Do
you feel like the skills that we've identified, these natural tendencies like teaching, mentoring, training, coaching, do you feel like that's accurate? Do you feel like deep down inside of you, it's something that you're interested in doing and something that you're also very good at doing too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny for me to say this, especially with people listening, but sometimes, even when I was younger, I used to tell my mom, I don't know why I attract so many like people, even like older people. They just start opening up to me and asking me for advice, and I'm like 13 years old, and I don't know. I totally lost track. Say that again.
So what we talked about was, do you feel like these skills and natural abilities, these attributes
Yes.
that we've discovered, or that you've discovered through the taking of these assessment tests over the past couple of weeks in our discussions, do you really feel like, things like teaching and mentoring and training and coaching, they're all legitimately in your interest and within your abilities?
Yes, because I think it's natural for me.
Yes, it's obviously natural. I've seen it with my own two eyes. It's natural. So
yeah, I don't have to work hard to be that, that person.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do, I feel.
Yeah, a person that is working against their natural tendencies or attributes is like a car that's driving down the highway and the fender is off the back bumper and it's dragging on the pavement, and you see sparks.
Yeah.
That creates burnout. You don't want that. And
No.
do you feel like, at least before we started these coaching sessions, that you were approaching something like burnout?
Approaching as in a new career, or
did you feel like you were getting burned out?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is all starting to make sense. So what do you think? I mean, I'm going to ask you this now. Like, what do you think the next step should be? What are you thinking?
I feel that I need to make believe that I'm going for a pitch.
Yeah.
And kind of like build that confidence within. And I don't know if I need to take another assessment as to how to do that, but
No, I think you're right. So what you're saying, so if I understand you,
yeah,
you're thinking in your mind, I need to come up with one of these ideas and really start thinking about how I would pitch this, right?
right.
Right.
And like, I guess also, if I'm putting all of my energy into my current position and I'm helping the employees build and I'm helping my company build, why am I not investing in myself?
Do you think it would be a good idea, and would you be comfortable in maybe reeling back all the energy and effort you're putting into your current job a little bit? Because it sounds like you're doing above and beyond the call of duty, but just ratchet that back to basically what's expected of you, and then stealing or borrowing some of that incremental energy that you'll get and putting that into thinking about a pitch,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
I actually, I thought of that yesterday.
Okay.
Like, even with like the assessments and everything, and I'm thinking, oh man, I feel burnt out here. Why am I putting so much energy and I'm still feeling burnt out and I'm
Right.
accomplishing things? Why am I limiting myself within? Like, take care of Daniela. What do you really want? And if you're on this journey of self-identification and trying to see where you want to be, and you're not where you want to be right now,
Yeah,
I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not putting that energy.
exactly. So, okay, let's talk about what we're gonna do for next week then, okay?
Yeah.
This is a good segue, okay? All right, so you gotta, okay. So here's a couple of things, okay? Number one, come up with that one thing. Come up with that one, it doesn't even have to be real, okay? But just come up with one potential pitch, one idea that you have, and we're gonna take that, you and I, and run with it. And we'll use that as a way to actually prepare a pitch. I'll help you do that, okay?
Okay.
I've done it myself many times, okay? There's some do's and don'ts in that, but I want you to come up with what that pitch idea would be, okay? And then what research could you possibly do to help you find out what this pitch idea would be?
Okay.
Okay,
See
so
who my competitors are.
yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, you can look at what the competitors are doing. You can look at what the market is looking for based upon your experience in this area of experience or capabilities that you have. Okay. Who could you talk to that could provide more insight about this idea or the pitch? Who could that be? You know,
Well, if anyone's listening.
exactly. Here's another one. Who should you be hanging out with? I'm going to list a bunch of these, and at the end, we'll narrow it down to 3, okay? But the other one is you should start thinking about who you should be hanging out with, because they say that every person is the average of the 5 people that they hang out with, okay? So think about, who you hang out with, because you should be very careful about who you hang out with, because who you hang out with, who your friends are, who your colleagues are, is really who you are. So if you want to be somebody that you're not, if you want to get to the next level, or if you want to get to be an owner, if you want to be an entrepreneur, hang out with entrepreneurs. Don't hang out with people who are temps, who are these employees. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful about who you hang out with. Hey, try and find mentors. I'm not saying that you should disband your social network, but I'm just saying that, people should have different tribes. They could have a family network, right? That's a tribe. You can have a personal network, friends from high school, friends from college, friends you party with. That can be your friends network
Right,
or your
right.
friends tribe. And then you have a business tribe. This is the one that people usually forget about. It could be a friend of Nick's who's an investor maybe, or it could be somebody else that you know through someone else, somebody you went to college with, an investor, a person who could really help you understand the business world a little bit more, the entrepreneurial world. So
Yeah.
start opening up your mind to how should I adjust my circle of business friends or even personal friends? The best thing is to have personal friends who are also business people.
Yeah.
Because then you sit around and have drinks, you go on vacations with, and there's the guy or there's the gal who's a successful entrepreneur. You're just sucking the information out of their brain all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, who should you be hanging out with? How can you get the knowledge and the inside information that you really need to make this a viable product or a viable service? And then lastly, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about this pitch idea compared to 3 or 4 other ones that you may have? So it could be that it may not be the best one, but it's the one that you're the most excited about. So it's a balancing act. So what do you think about those?
I
Which
love
ones do
that.
you want to take on?
Which questions?
Yeah. I mean, if you could pick 3 of these.
Definitely. Okay. So let me see. I guess the pitch, obviously, and doing the researching, the investors, and to be honest with you, Rob, I think that all of them kind of play
Yep.
amongst one another. Between the pitch, the research, such as would be my competitors, and then how I would pitch it to an investor. And then, one thing that really struck out to me was, who do you hang out with? And who should you be hanging out with?
Yeah. So over the next week, what if you were to really sit down and think about these tribes?
I'm kind of scared. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, ooh.
Think of these 3 tribes: family, friends, and business. Okay. We can focus on the business. And I want you to think about like 5 people who you could potentially, and you don't have to mention their specific names because there's a strong possibility that they're probably watching this. But if you could come up with like 4 or 5 people, and maybe, you could figure out what position they would be, like who these people could possibly be without naming names, just assign them an alias or something, and then come to the next meeting and say, I thought about this business tribe, this entrepreneurial tribe that I could really develop, because you're extroverted, you're like a magnet, you're authentic. I'll guarantee you, anybody, even perfect strangers, would welcome you into their tribe, because a lot of it is just saying, hey, can you help me? Can I get some help from you? Is there any way you could possibly help me with something? I'll guarantee you 8 out of 10 people are going to say, yeah, I'd be happy to help you. So one of the things that we'll talk about next week and the week after is, okay, once we identify who we need to contact, how do you execute that? How do you approach people? How do you break the ice? How do you establish common ground? How do you get into the office for a meeting? How do you do the pitch? These are all things that we can talk about. I really like how this is progressing, because I think we've reached a decision point for which direction you want to go, but it's not up to me. It's up to you, Danielle. So how do you feel right now about the direction you're going in?
I'm really excited, and I'm not just saying that. I'm excited. I'm overwhelmed. I think that this was definitely a kick in my butt to just finally just say, you know what, cut the crap and just invest in yourself. The best investment you can make is in yourself. And why have I not done so? Who knows, right? Was I chasing stability? Was I chasing, oh my God, I just need a job? But I think I have more to offer. And I think that with you, Rob, and thank you, and just working on all these assessments and this process, it's really making me nervous, overwhelmed, but I'm motivated. And it's this positive energy, which I think that I kind of put on hold for a bit, because I I'm sitting in an office, right? Like 9 to 5. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with myself? With my life? So I'm excited. Yeah.
Are you a little scared too?
Oh, I'm terrified. I'm
Why
terrified.
is that?
Because even though I'm not scared to fail, I'm excited for the journey. I'm scared of the process because because I'm a perfectionist. I know how I want things. And if there's change, I struggle with change sometimes because I can't just go with the flow sometimes.
Yeah. So I'm going to make this offer then. So to the audience out there, I want your participation. I want to see some emails. You can call me. It's all in the show notes, my contact information. I want the audience's feedback on this. I want the audience to ask some questions that I can ask Daniella. If anyone has any ideas, I think a lot of people now, if you've watched the first 3 shows, you have a pretty good idea of what Daniella's capabilities and potential is insofar as her personality, some career directions. We don't know everything. These are just assessment tests. I don't know everything. We welcome audience participation. And if somebody sends me a really good question, I'll have them on the show.
I love that.
You know, I will have the person on the show that has a really good question for you. I'll just bring them on the show. I'll say, Daniella, meet Tom, Dick, or Harry, whoever it is, and they'll be on the show. It'll be a 3-way. Okay.
I love
They can
that.
ask you
Yeah.
questions. I will have them on the show. I guarantee that. So there's my offer for everybody watching this right now. You send me a question, email me a question for Daniella. If it's a reasonable question, it's on point, I will have you on the show.
I love that.
How do you feel about that?
I am excited.
Good.
And I hope it's really, really challenging so it can help me even more.
All right, great. We will get somebody. So thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you, Rob.
I'm still trying to get Jocko on the show too, at Extreme
I
Ownership.
know.
We're going to get Jocko on the show. We may have him on for the finale. He's a wild ride, that guy, man. So
And Rob, congratulations again.
thank you
And
very
you're-
much. Yep, I just
Yeah.
became a new grandfather. So
Oh my gosh. And it's the first one. So that's so exciting.
thank you, thank you, thank
Really
you.
happy for you.
All right, well, we have a lot of work to do, and we'll be talking between now and then, but I will see you next week.
Yes,
you.
absolutely. I can't wait. Thank you. I'd
Thanks,
love to
everybody,
do.
again, for watching the Career Coaching Experience. Thank you, and God bless.